All right, so we actually are here to actually talk about D&D. So for those who don't know, D&D has released the playtest for their new edition that's coming out sometime between now and Doomsday. Jared knows dates, dates, whatever.
2024.
But yeah, it is on their website. It's a PDF you can download. Then you can do stuff. So they did release. Obviously, this includes stuff that they're changing. At the moment, this is just the beginning of the playtest. Anything that's basically not in this that you need the rules on, it's as if it is right now. So this really
understand this is a playtest party, people. So these will not be set in stone. Also, we definitely encourage you all to download the playtest and also give feedback. If there's something that you don't like, and I promise you, there will probably be a couple things that you do not like. We spent the whole half hour before we got in here arguing about things we like and don't. Definitely give them feedback. If there's something you don't like, say something about it. These do not have to be set in stone. Things will change, and things that you might end up, disliking could turn into something that you really do like, and things that you like may get tweaked a bit too. So the best way to keep what you want or to lose what you don't, make suggestions, right? Also tell us if there's things that you like. Do it on our IG, tell us on any other of our platforms, and let us know in chat what you think is interesting or what you just want to set on fire.
Word.
Yeah. Also, they did say that some of the stuff may or may not be balanced. So this, your mileage may vary on balance. So balance isn't something. I mean, there's something we'll touch on, but yet again, this is just their first run of the playtest, at least that public playtest. So, yet again, balance is going to be shifting all over the place when they get more and more feedback. So
they already came out the gate with a loud bang of saying Dragonborn will forever suck. But yeah, so let's take this nice and slow. So they in the playtest, right? This is just how to build your character from the species and backgrounds. The classes haven't dropped, and as we understand it, this is our general assumption. They're still using the standard array or the roll 4d6 drop below us. So it's 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8. As you can see, I've done it like a million times, hence why I remember the numbers. With that being said, you have your so the two that's happening right now is they have the ancestries or your species or whatever you want to call it, and your backgrounds, and that's kind of how you start your character. In the playtest rules, it says first you choose your class, then you choose your everything else. Your background and your species. I'm gonna say species from now on.
Races.
Yeah. So they tried to balance, and I was a little confused by this. I want them to speak on it. Maybe Matt, Chris Perkins or someone from the D&D team could speak on this. So they have human, they have orc. They didn't go half orc, and there's a reason for that. They have elf. They have halfling, they have gnome, they have dragonborn, and a new species called the Ardling. And this is just the newest one that they're putting out. The Ardling is basically, you're from one of the higher planes of existence, such as heaven, Elysium, the Beastlands, one of the planes of the afterlife. It's super weird, because it's weird having a species come from a plane of existence that's more of like an afterlife, right? Like Nirvana, like you come from Nirvana, you know what I mean? That's super weird. But Ardlings, they're like that, and they are the animal-headed humanoid species. They don't have wings and stuff, so if you're like, I'm an eagle, you look like Horus from Egyptian mythology. So you have the animal head and the human body bits at the bottom, so you're like a reverse sphinx. That's literally what you are. You could have cat head, you're reverse sphinx. You could be a reverse mermaid, which is a horror to look at. You have fish head, human body.
Making this a note. I'm making a reverse mermaid.
Or you could be the worst of all the hybrids, which is you have insect head, human body.
Roach man, can't wait.
So the Ardling is the newest, and I know why they brought it in, right? They were trying to balance, and this is what I was saying. Like, I want them to talk on it. Maybe have Chris Perkins or someone from Fifth Edition, from the D&D team, to speak on this. I wanted to know why they went Ardling and not Aasimar, right? Like, we had Aasimar. Like, you know what I mean? Like, was it just like a flavor thing, or was it like, what's everyone's opinion on this? Like, do you want to know, or you're like, it doesn't matter?
I'm actually curious, to be completely honest, because I'll say this out the gate, I don't like it, but that's just me. I have a weird thing about like animal heads on normal bodies, but they kind of said that like within the description of it, they said that like some places, some of the species might have like tufts of hair, or some of them might have feathers, or whatever it is. Like, I will say this, aesthetically in my brain, I'm like, that's weird, but hey, there are a lot of weird things in this game that I'm just not a particular fan of, right? But I feel that if they wanted to do something different, that's definitely the way to go. I don't know if I would have gone that route, but then that's just me being picky. If I feel like being picky and saying I don't like something for the sake of I don't liking it, I can pick on Ardling because it's totally like the brand new child here, and it gives me something to go, no, I don't. But their abilities and the things that they can do and a little bit of their lore is very interesting. If, like Jared was saying, if you want to make a reverse Sphinx, you totally can. If you want to make a cat-headed person and run around, or I was saying to him earlier, I want to definitely make an Anubis Sith warrior, and this is coming from somebody who doesn't like them off the bat. But like having like a jackal head on a person's body and I'm running around doing crazy things, that's definitely something that I would do, and I can change that aesthetic towards what I want. But outright, meh, it doesn't pull me in and make me love it immediately.
I would just like the answer of why they're trying to distance themselves from the Aasimar, because this literally is Aasimar with flavor on top of it.
It's Aasimar, but with extra steps.
Yeah, that, and I don't know if anyone else has this issue. There's a couple of races that do this, where you can choose your size. What is the benefit of being small or medium? And let's just clarify it. In 5th edition right now, what is the difference between being small or medium?
There is no statistical difference. I'm speaking solely statistically. So a halfling can pick up a greatsword, like in the earlier editions, right? And I know D&D 1 is moving away from the edition notion, like it's now the ONE DND. So in 3.5 and 3rd edition and 2nd edition, I'm not too sure about 1st or a D&D, but like a gnome couldn't use a greatsword built for a human or a medium-sized creature. And then I know Fabio could speak on this also. In 3.5, because it's very similar to Pathfinder 1st edition, they would have like the medium-sized weapon in the stat block and then the small-sized weapon stat. So you would see like medium, it would say like 2d6 for a greatsword, and it was small, it was d8 or d12, right? In 5th edition, they no longer do that. So a gnome greatsword in the hands of a gnome is 2d6. In the hands of a Goliath is still 2d6.
Yeah, it's outside of like I think grappling and a couple other things that are size specific, where it says like, or like pushing or something like that, where it says like you can only do it towards something that's like a size bigger than you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like a gnome trying to push something that's large, you're gonna have a hard time, right? Or trying to grapple it. If I remember right, that's like the only real thing. There might be a couple other things where it's like spell related or ability related, but for the most part, your weapon damage is gonna be the same. The armor is gonna be the same. I think a lot of it also goes into thematics of like, yo, I'm small so I can squeeze through this thing, or I'm big so I'm imposing. I think a lot of it has to do with, flavor at that point.
So okay, then that begs the question, then why don't every race have the choice?
I don't know. And that's a great question that I don't know why they did it that way, but I guess hey, it's sometimes you want to give people parameters of what is. It's like, hey, for the most part, gnomes and halflings are going to be smaller. Dwarves are going to be smaller, but more so medium, and orcs are going to be big as shit. You know, so it kind of gives you like that idea when you're playing Theater of the Mind of what it is you're looking at and what it is you're dealing with. You know, if you got a 7-foot tall gnome, that's a problem. And I don't care what anybody says. If I see a gnome and it's 7 feet tall, I'm asking questions. I need answers, right? But stat wise, like I was even going through like one of the things where it's talking about like grappling and everything like that. Yeah, even with the grappled condition or anything like that, it's like the grappler can drag or carry you, but the grappler suffers slow conditions. If it's unless you're tiny or 2 more sizes smaller than the grappler, that's it.
Yeah, there's really no,
you know, there's a few other things that are within range, but for the most part I think it's just parameters. You know, this is what they're supposed to look like, and this is what you can kind of imagine them looking like.
I see the people in the comments here, and actually I'm kind of responded to a little bit. This is I'm not sure. I was supposed to say I can't speak on whether they're actively trying to remove ASMR or they're just playing with this new Ardling concept, and ASMR is still a thing or could be a thing later on when the game actually releases, or maybe in further playtest adjustments. But Ardling is real close to being an ASMR. It literally is thematically very similar, with the exception of like you look like a animal person.
Yeah, you're an animal person.
But you're technically coming from the higher planes, just like Tiefling is coming from the lower planes. So yes, this could be an active attempt for them to remove ASMR, or this could be just them playing with the concept that they had. Was Ardling in 5th edition?
No.
Okay, this is something brand new. Oh, God.
This is an old edition. This is an old. It's weird. It's from older editions, so it's from like 2E and stuff like that. And
I don't want to say I hope not, or I don't want to say I hope so. I think they're trying some new stuff out and see what people react to. It's like, hey, we got this other thing. It's kind of like an ASMR, but it's got a goat head. How do you feel about it? Right? If people give it a visceral reaction, then maybe they'll just have it do some other stuff, and maybe they'll bring ASMRs back and give them like some cool things too. Who knows? But I'll say off rip, it's not my favorite of the new races, even though it is the new race.
Yeah. Now we've kind of like rambled on this like new species. This should have just been like why we hate the Ardling. It should have just been an entire chat about Ardlings. Why you here? Leave. No one wants you. Bring ASMR back. No.
Ardling who dis?
New Ardling who dis? It's probably just for a playtest to see the new celestial beings. Trev, you're 100% right.
All right, so let's we can keep talking about the different. The one thing that I want to bring up that they, I believe, changed. I don't know if this was a thing. Now you guys can play more 5th edition than I have, but the Ardling and a smattering of other classes. Listen to me. A smattering of other races in this new playtest have they're equivalent of spells. So at 1st level, one of the benefits that the Ardling gets is depending on which kind of Ardling you are. There's 3 different subtypes. You get either Thaumaturgy as a cantrip, Light as a cantrip, or Guidance as a cantrip. And then as you gain levels, once you hit 3rd level, they're depending on which one you pick, you get a 1st level spell, and then I believe that you get is that a 2nd level spell at 5th level? So you get a higher level spell. They just mentioned it's a higher level spell. I don't know what the spell levels are, but at 3rd and 5th level, so in essence, at 3rd and 5th level, without you having to pick anything else, you're getting better in your as being this race.
Yes.
So if I pick the Exalted, which is I pick the Exalted, so I get Thaumaturgy as a cantrip. At 3rd level, I get Divine Focus, and at 5th level, I get Lesser Restoration. Now, the Divine Favor and Lesser Restoration are a once-a-day thing, and you have to do a long rest. But the Thaumaturgy is a cantrip, and I believe in 5th edition that you can use cantrips over and over again.
Yes.
Or was that not
infinite?
Okay.
Infinite, like Pathfinder.
All day, every day.
Gotcha. So not all of the races get something like this, but this is generally tied to races that get access to spellcasting inherent in their race. So elves get this, exalteds get this. I believe gnomes and does the tieflings get this?
I think they do. Yes,
I think
the
they do.
Get this. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so the gnomes get a different version. No, they get.
Mm-hmm.
The gnomes
Yeah,
get
each
kind of
one's-
like a weird version of this. They actually don't get better over time. They just get an effect at first level that kind of mimics a spell, and they get a cantrip, but they get weird extra benefits. But the Ardling, the elves, and the tieflings all get these things where as you get higher level, up to 5th level, you get kind of free spells you can cast per day that you can use. Now, obviously, the other races don't get that, but they get other stuff. So this is the first time that I think we've seen that your race getting more powerful as you level up, and an inherent like you hit this level, you get this benefit. And unless that's something that I missed, is that a thing in 5th edition? Whereas as inherently of me getting higher level, my race gives me something extra, or is that happened in 5th edition?
That carries over from 5th edition.
Oh,
So
that's something they did in 5th edition.
They had stuff like that. So
Okay.
Tiefling in 5th edition, you wouldn't get just spells. You had spell-like abilities. So
like Hellish
Tiefling,
Rebuke would be like a thing that they would get.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
This turned them directly into spells. So for the Celestial
Gotcha.
Legacy,
Okay. I'm just trying to denote the changes from 5th and the D&D 1 or ONE DND.
Gotcha. It was a mix and match depending on the race, but like for example, tieflings would get, like off the bat, it's like, oh, you have like resistance. Okay, cool. They kind of kept that more or less the same. And then it's like, oh, later on you get Hellish Rebuke. They kind of added that the same, and then later on you get like some other crazy spell like ability. With this one, just like Jared was saying, it's at 1, 3, and 5. You're getting like a spell or an access. You get some cantrips off the bat, then you get a spell later on, and then you get a stronger spell once you hit like level 5, right? And I think that's cool for making it very simple. If you're going a spell caster and you want to have access to, an extra spell slot per day, going elf, going tiefling, or going, Ardling is kind of like the cool way to go, right? You're going to get that extra spell. If you want to have, martial class with like a little hint of extra magic, right? You can definitely go that route too. And they made it very simple so that no matter what you pick, you at least have a general idea of what it is you're getting spell wise, right? And what it is you're getting just from your race, right? I feel like that's fun for anybody that's like, oh man, I got to remember at this level, I get some craziness. You're getting a spell. Instead of trying to remember exactly, what resistance or what stupid ability or what soul sucking brand new move you get, you're getting a spell at 1, 3, and 5. I like how they simplified that and made it a thing that anybody can theoretically pick up.
I don't like elves. Sorry. Not. So I'm gonna say this. First off, Ardlings are broken. Secondly, no, like legitimately off the bat, like I know we talked a shit ton about Ardlings, and this became like why I hate Ardlings from D&D 1 playtest. But Ardlings are broken. They get as a bonus action. They can fly or a mimic flight. It's dope as fuck. Don't get me wrong. Asimar's did it first, but that's besides the point. But they fly. It's one of their abilities. It's a bonus action. Or angelic flight. You sprout spectral wings for a moment. You fly up to a number of feet equal to your speed. So their base speed is 30 feet, right? And if you don't land, you fall, right? So you fall. You can use this equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain everything back at a long rest. That's dope. Then they get they're resistant to radiant damage, but I mean, how often are you hit by something with radiant damage, right? Like that's a weird one.
And then you get those spells that we talked about.
And then you get the spells.
Depending on there's three different variants depending on which kind of one you want.
Yeah, that's a lot. Like human, in comparison, human gets skillful, so that you get so humans. This is what I love. Old school. If you're a 3-5, Pathfinder 1, 3rd edition player, you're gonna love humans because they can theoretically start the game with 2 feats instead. So they out the gate they get 2 feats. Versatile, you gain the skilled feat or another first level feat of your choice. So remember, in that option, you can choose either you get skillful, which gives you, I think, proficiency in 3 skills.
This one, it's 1. You get proficiency in 1 skill of your choice.
Oh,
This one, you get 1 skill of your choice for these humans, and then you get an extra feat. So everybody starts off level 1 with 1 feat. If you're a human, no matter what type of human you are, you get 2.
Yeah, because you get the skilled feat, and then because of your background, because backgrounds give you feats, you'll get the background feat, so you'll have 2 feats.
Oh, so okay. So just to correct. So the humans get skilled, which means they get a proficiency in an additional skill.
Yes.
With versatile, they either get a free first level feat or they get the skilled feat, which is then the 3 additional skills.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you'll start the game out the gate, and if you're a rogue, you'll probably start the game with 8.
Just take all the skills.
Yeah, you could be nasty off the bat, and I'm pretty sure that's, hey, I can't fly, but what am I good at? Everything.
Yeah. Because skilled gives you 3, you get 1 for being a human, and then you get 1 for your background. So that's 5. Wow, that's 5.
Yeah.
That's 5 as a human. And then if you go rogue, I believe you get 4 more. So that's 8.
It could be. I don't remember exactly for rogue. I think it's like you get an extra 2, or like they had this thing where it's like expertise.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Where it's like you were extra nasty at like a couple of things. Right. But in either scenario, whether you're playing a rogue or you're playing a bard, you will be the skilliest of monkeys. Right. Yeah. I get what you're saying with like Ardling, where it's just like, hey, you can fly 2 times per day off the bat, maybe 3 times a day, maybe 4 times. Later on in the game, 6 times in a day, bonus action, I can fly 30 feet. That's kind of cool, right? It's at that point, it's like you're doing something that's equivalent to like the fly magic spell or getting like an item at that point, right? Actually, and it's whether you don't have it or not, you have it kind of built in. As I feel like the equivalent that where you're doing it with humans, it's I'm nasty at everything off of the bat. I have a bonus on everything. Like I'm going to be very good with a lot of things initially, and they get with the versatile, they get that extra feat. So they're gonna have an option to get something cool that could definitely boost whatever it is they're doing off rip.
Yeah.
And they also get the resourceful, which means they get inspiration whenever they finish a long rest. So they start every day with inspiration.
I wake up, I got initiative when I want.
They have said they're changing how inspiration works because and that actually ties into a few other things.
Well, they mentioned it in the playtest where basically it is just spending it to get advantage.
Yeah.
It's just advantage.
Yeah. So Fabio, I know you're our D&D guy, and it only took us 45 minutes to get to you. But so tell us some of your notes.
So one of the things I want to talk about is definitely backgrounds. I think that what they did with the backgrounds is really cool, where they said it within the rules themselves that you can craft your own backgrounds. They give you a lot of examples of where things can go and stuff that you can pick, but for the most part, you're going to mess around with a couple of your stats, right? It's 2 on 2, so it's 2 points for 2 of your stats and 1 on additional, or you can get 3 single points on multiple stats, right? Which is kind of interesting because then you can end up rounding out stats that are odd numbers, or if you're just like, hey, I'm going to put these all here, so when I level up, it's going to go bing, bam, boom, and then I'll get everything to where I want it to be. It all depends on like what you're going to go min-max wise. I find it interesting the fact that they really are incentivizing you as the player to build something and craft something and work with your DM. Right. I know one of the things that, people may have a gripe about is, hey, I can do whatever the fuck I want. You kind of can. Right. And I feel it does definitely give you that autonomy to be creative. But at the end of the day, whatever you pick as the player, you have to get past your DM. Right. So I want to like pause right there and also see what you guys thought about the backgrounds and like the versatility, whether you really liked it, or whether you thought that it was just too chaotic and left things up for disaster.
I like the backgrounds currently. I don't like a few choices on the backgrounds. I dislike the fact that soldier gets goblin as a language. I confused the shit out of me. I was like, why goblin? So if you look, all backgrounds give you a language, right? So everyone's gonna start with 3 or 4 languages. So that's cool, right? Like that's cool to have a lot of languages. Historically, it's kind of accurate. Humans spoke lots of languages, but also if you interacted with many different humans, you picked up a few things. I feel like there should be like tiers in languages. So like if you're trained, you kind of get by. Like it's like remedial Spanish. But and then like you know what I mean, and then it's like expert. You're like you can converse in Spanish.
I'm fluent in this.
Yeah, and then like master is like grammatical syntax. Sorry, McBluff is like goblin maybe because hobgoblins are tacticians. I guess it was weird. It was just like a weird choice, but that's me just being a nitpicky bitch, right? Like just like, oh, why goblin? But I do like the fact that like you build backgrounds. I can see that becoming a hassle, especially in the way they're moving to online play, right? Because that means you're gonna have to get in contact with that person via online to get them to approve your background. But the way they built backgrounds do give them the option to have a lot of choices, hopefully. Obviously, you have 6 stats, so you can only do so many combinations with those 6 stats, right? So you'll start to see a lot of overlaps, but everyone gets a tool proficiency, which is cool. But again, unless they do something with the rules with tool proficiencies, it's going to become useless, right? Like if they borrow from Pathfinder 2nd edition and make shields a consumable item, then tools will become useful, right? Like if there is something that's consumable that your character will always want, tools will become useful. But the way 5th edition has built tools, they're more role play status, and it's cool to have like, yeah, my dwarf, it has stonemason proficiency tools and jewel crafting tools and fucking leatherworker tools.
We're gonna come to that in a second.
But none of that has any kind of like, unless again, if we know games only go, they did a test, they know games only go about 6 sessions. So in that 6 sessions, unless we have hard role play with downtime, tools become useless. And I just feel like maybe they could have given you possible expertise and abilities and skills. Like, oh, you have athletics, but if you get athletics twice, you get expertise in it, right? Like that would have been cool, instead of saying like oh, like, right, like that's just me. Like they're trying to like, what's that meme? Like, stop trying to make so like this cool. It's never gonna be cool.
Okay, so since we're talking about tools, I'm gonna jump in here. Fabio, can you tell me the rule? I don't have my 5th edition book on me right now. Can you tell me what the rule for tool proficiency is in 5th edition as it stands right now? Yeah, I just don't know the rule. So I'm trying to, because they actually specifically mention it in this, and I think it's actually different than what's listed as the normal rule. I'm just trying to find it.
Okay, so basically what happens is with the tool abilities, you can use on an ability check using your tools, you are proficient in it. So meaning you gain your proficiency bonus. Now the caveat is I can't use thieves tools and like sleight of hand to do it. I'm just using my thieves tools. And that's why if you take expertise in thieves tools, you get double your proficiency bonus from 5th edition. So if Fabio's using his cartography set to get like a better estimation of like travel time, because he doesn't have survival, he would get his proficiency bonus on that check. So we would say it's a wisdom check similar to survival. So please make that check. He's like, okay, I have a +2 in my wisdom, +2 for my my cartographer tools proficiency. So cool. I now have a +4 and I rolled a 14, so I got an 18. Cool beans. So that's the caveat on what tools do for you. One, tools give you a chance to not be terrible on a roll. So theoretically, if you're proficient in, I like the silliest way around it, right? Like, and I could see Fabio doing this in a campaign.
Yep.
He doesn't have his thieves tools set. He chose not to take proficiency in thieves tools, but he has locksmith tools, and he's proficient in locksmithing. He could theoretically argue, and as a GM, I would have to agree with him, that he can use his locksmith toolkit plus his dexterity to roll to open a lock instead of not using lock picks.
Makes sense to me.
That's how it works.
Gotcha. So the way tool proficiencies are going to change, and I think I'm not sure if, like I said, I'm not up to date on rules. If this isn't the way it works, and the fact that they're listening in here tells me that implies that this isn't the way it normally works, and this is a change that they're seriously considering. If you have a proficiency with the tool, you can add your proficiency bonus to any ability check you make using that tool. That's the way it works right now, right? We're on agreement that that's the way it works in 5th edition. This is the way it works in here. If you and here's the big thing: if you have proficiency in the skill that also is used with the check, you have advantage.
Oh,
this is huge because it's like, right? I can pick a lot. Or say I'm climbing, right? So I'm using my athletics and I'm climbing, but then I have proficiency in a climbing kit. Now I've just given myself advantage. I think this is huge.
I think that's dope.
And I love it. Cool.
That's they made this one a little bit better because now it's like, hey, I'm really good at I have advantage on picking locks because I have my lock picks. You know, I have my lock picking set.
You could also benefit from the proficiency bonus. It says here that this functionality means you can benefit from both skill proficiency and tool proficiency on the same ability check, which implies that you're just getting advantage.
That's actually,
I don't know
useful.
The way that reads. It could be either you're actually getting double proficiency. I don't think that's the case.
That's the way I would read it because that's the way I remember you doing it, but you didn't get advantage.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now it gives you advantage.
Maybe it's double proficiency and advantage. That's busted.
No, I don't think it's double proficiency.
I mean, like if you have proficiency with the tool, you can add your proficiency bonus to any ability check that you make that uses that tool. If you have proficiency in the skill that also used with that check, you have advantage on that check too. This functionally means you can benefit from both skill proficiency and tool proficiency on the same ability check.
Oh, I know what
I think you get the
saying.
benefit of it by having advantage, but you don't add the numbers.
You get one proficiency and advantage.
Yeah,
you get one proficiency and advantage. So they I think they heard everyone saying that tools are busted and useless. They're broken, and they said now we're making it useful. Now this is a way you can gain advantage, but only in those situations where the tool and the skill both apply to the situation. So can I use my climbing kit to craft a lock? No, of course not. So it has to match the situation, and that's yet again. This is how you're convincing the GM that your tool here matters.
And that
makes sense.
So so now my argument about the background tool thing kind of goes out the window because they've already seen that established and then said, so I will retract my earlier statement on the backgrounds giving you a tool because it's useful now.
Which also goes back to the thing is that there are some tools that are more valuable than others, and that's always going to be the case, right? So you're right. You're a gaming kit. How often you be playing dice? But you know what this means is it might mean that I can use some social skills as that fighter who don't have a high charisma by gambling with the person I want to talk to. So now I just gave myself my proficiency bonus on that roll. Well, okay, maybe, and then if I do have a proficiency, maybe I don't have a high stat, right? So I don't have like a 10 in charisma, but I have I picked like either deception or whatever, and I picked my gaming kit. So now I'm gambling with these people I want to talk to. Now I've got an advantage and my proficiency bonus all wrapped up in one.
It's a win-win-win.
So
it's a cool thing. Like just like you were saying, like you're playing the paladin, right? Maybe you're the paladin of I can't remember the god that's of booze and partying, right? Yeah. And it's like, hey, I want to talk to that guy, and they're being difficult. Like, hey, I need some information. I'm not gonna go just like, yo, you want to gamble for it? Boom. You know you got advantage in that moment, more than likely, for that specific check. And that's fun. It makes everything you pick actually have a freaking use. Right? You just got to be creative. And I love that they did that with the backgrounds, that you can now make this and alter it in the way you want to do it with the language. Cool. You know, take that soldier, switch it to something out, turn it into a mercenary. And it's like, hey, you know, you don't really want to be a straight up, you know, assassin or thief. Cool. You're a cat burglar. You know, you still get the +2 on dex. Maybe you speak, you know, what is the tabaxi or something like that.
That's a cat person.
And you have a lock picking set, you know, like you have your locksmithing set, right? So that's what you do. You can now tweak it towards you want, but you understand what you're getting. You're getting your skill bonus, you're getting your language, you're getting your tool proficiency, and you're getting a fee. Another thing that I have is some of the racial abilities, right? I know we kind of touched on it where it comes down to like tieflings, ardlings, and elves, but I feel like some of the other classes have some really cool tweaks that they did, right? And it's even classes that, like, well, I don't want to say classes, races that normally I wouldn't even like pick, but I was just like, whoa, that's really kind of cool. Like one of the things that I did with a lot of the races is the ones that don't have magic rope like meshed into the race itself was making some of the prominent abilities do a little bit more. I'm going to take dwarves, for instance. I have never, ever played a dwarf. Not even once. Not even in I'm going to sit someplace and pick up a character. I've never played a dwarf. I have no beef against dwarves. There's never been a race that I was ever gravitated to. They have an ability, Stone Cunning. Do y'all know what Stone Cunning does? Right? The old way it used to be, kind of buns. Now, Stone Cunning. As a bonus action, you gain Tremor Sense with a range of 60 feet for 10 minutes. This must be on stone surface or touching a surface. To use the Tremor Sense, the stone can be natural or worked. You can use this bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you'll gain all expended uses you finish as on a long rest. That's cool. Stone Cunning, at first it's just like, you can kind of like tell, you know, gems and shit and like kind of what is around here. Tremor Sense for 10 minutes, that's very helpful. That is something that you can use in general battle, or you can use in exploring. They did like my favorite that I've been freaking talking about all day, right? And I'm pretty sure everybody here is already annoyed about it, is orcs. My very first character, Kresh, was an orc inquisitor. I miss Kresh. They gave them adrenaline rush, where you can take the dash action as a bonus action, and when you do, you gain temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus. That's cool, and you could do it a certain number of times per day equal to your proficiency bonus, and you can get it back on a long rest. To me, that's dope. It is like, yo, I can run as a bonus action, so I run. All right, I'm in your face, and I got a little bit of extra temps. I thought that was cool. I think one of the balances that they did that I found interesting is if you don't have magic, so you don't feel so underpowered in the comparison to some of the other races, you have some cool built-in abilities that you can do a certain number of times per day, and you know specifically what they will be. What did you guys think about some of like the cool built-in abilities that some of the races got that aren't magic related?
Dragonborn got shafted yet again with their breath weapon. They just won't give it to them, right? Like I am so my problem with the Dragonborn weapon is this: it's an action. As a fighter, I want if I'm playing a Dragonborn, right? I want to be a dragon man. Let me live my fantasy. I could be a gnome. My dad could have been a gnome and my mom could have been a Dragonborn, but God forbid I'm allowed to breathe fire. Just, you won't let me do it, wizards. You just won't let me do it. It's an action, right? So that means on my turn, and we know bonus action is still here, right? So a lot of people were like, maybe they're going to get rid of bonus action. Bonus action is staying. It's in the rules. A lot of things get it, right? the adrenaline rush that Fabio was talking about, right? For the orc, fucking dope as shit. What does it say? Adrenaline rush. You take the dash action as a bonus action. So that means as an orc, I can punch a bitch with my Tavern Brawler, but bang, and just dip. I snuff someone and I run. I've done this in real life. It's happened. It just is an ability, right?
We have that ability built in. We have that ability built in.
You snuff someone and you dip.
Yep.
They have that ability. Dragonborn are like, I need to breathe fire, right? It's dope, right? But here's the problem. The produce flame cantrip outscales my breath weapon by fifth level. And then produce flame is a cantrip. It outscales my breath weapon at 5th level. Now they tried to bump it, right? They were like, hey, you can do this a number of times, proficiency per day. Cool beans. I like that. Proficiency, I like what they're doing. And then it's a long rest. I can see that. I'm interested to see the class stuff because I mentioned this to Fabio earlier. I feel they're trying to phase out short rest or limit the number of short rest players get, because I heard a lot of arguments from people who were like, yo, my team just short rest. Like they fight, short rest. The Warlock gets everything back. They go into a fight. Warlock goes Nova. They short rest.
Yep.
And that happened very frequently.
I actually haven't seen short rest mentioned in this entire playtest.
I saw it once.
It might have been once. Now, so the dragons, as an action, you exhale destructive breath in a 15-foot cone. So now I like that, because a lot of times my choices was like, hey, I want to use lightning because I think lightning looks cool, right? Like Zeus, like lightning out my eyes, out my nose, but it was always in a straight line. Now it's a cone. I appreciate that.
That's a bonus.
That's a bonus.
Yeah.
But as an action, and it's not even a attack action, so it might not proc my other stuff. It's just an action. Each creature in the area makes a dex save. So I'm sorry, guys, if it's the fireball for wizards, right? Like I said, I cast fireball. I didn't say how big is the room. So it's the Dragonborn equivalent. I said I breathe.
15-foot cone. It's not that big.
Yeah, but right. And then it's a D10 plus your character level. So at 20th level, it's D10 plus 20. I want everyone to know, at 20th level monsters, if that becomes an effective measure, that means shit has gone south real fast.
Black 20 on damage is really good.
But it's most monsters like absorb that.
How much does your weapon do at 20?
It's not plus 20.
Well, it depends on like what you have, right? Like if it's a magic weapon.
Let's assume you're a fighter.
Plus 20. Even if you have,
well, how many attacks are you going to get in a round?
You'll have multiple attacks.
That's what I'm saying.
Thing.
Yeah.
But it's like using a spell. Like I hear what you're saying. I'm gonna let you finish. I'm cutting in.
I'm sorry.
Wait.
All I'm saying is, right, the wizard will do produce flame, right? Now in currently in D&D 1, spells don't crit, so that's acceptable. Now if you do roll a crit, you do get inspiration. They've kind of changed, they added a little thing there. So even though you're not doubling or quadrupling your dice,
spells,
your spells are still giving you something. You're still getting something from that, which is cool. But my cantrip, my produce flame at 5th level is 2d8. Mathematically, I'm doing more consistently.
Slightly, not really, because here's the math, right? And this is where I was going to get to.
Either rolling 16 or 2.
Yeah.
On the low end, I'm always rolling a 2, and on the high end, I'm always rolling 16.
Yeah.
On a Dragonborn, I'm either rolling a 1 or a 10. Now I do get my level.
You are rolling. Your damage will always be 6, or it will be 15.
Oh, because you're saying it's either +5 on.
Because it's your level, and that's the thing. Like, I get where you're saying. Where like, do I still kind of feel they got shafted to a point? But the fact that it scales with level is amazing, right? At level 5, in comparison to a cantrip that you can get for free, but you have to kind of be a caster, right? And that's what you chose. It's like, okay, yeah, level 5, it's going to outscale it, as it should. You're a magic man, right? Versus you're a fucking dragon. You know what you can do? I can breathe fire. I'm adding my level to it. Level 5, at minimum, I'm rolling a 6. At maximum, I'm rolling a 15. And I could, at level 5, I can do it, I think, 3 times per day. That means I'm hitting you at minimum 6, max 15. Can it be out damaged with Produce Flame? Yeah, the max you're going to do is 16, right? The minimum you will do is 2. So on
I
average,
would like to see this
you're
adjusted.
doing more huh?
I would like to see this adjusted.
I think it should be a bonus action. I'm just saying, personally, bonus action. Give it a bonus
I don't hate
action.
that idea, and I would actually agree with that. And I think that would be cool. I agree with
Here's
that.
how I would change this. Here's how I would kind of math this out. A bonus action 15-foot area of effect. That's good, right? We all agree.
Yeah.
That's I would say once you start to add in this as a bonus action, I would say you need to remove the fact that you're targeting multiple people. You know, how many times have we seen like the dragon throw like a fireball at one person? We've had seen that all the time in movies and other things, right? So you could say it's a glob of fill in the blank of the damage type, and it hits one person, but it's a bonus action and it does 1d10 plus your Constitution modifier, because Constitution modifier is already built into the DC.
That's
so you're
true.
already building it, right? If you want to make this DC hard to avoid, if you want to make it a DC, because, you know, or either that or you're just making an attack roll.
I think it should just be an attack roll.
You know,
The reason why it's a save is specifically in case
Because it's an AoE.
Yeah, it's AoE. It has to be a
so
save.
I think
for
you
AoE.
can adjust that to where it does less damage, so it doesn't necessarily plus your whole level. Maybe it is just plus your Constitution modifier, so maybe it's a D10 or maybe the die changes or whatever, but it targets a person. So so then that would rectify the fact that it's an entire action, because like I said, depending on your class, your action may give you way more than a 1d10 plus your level, and that it could be saved out of.
But I would say this, remember, this is a choice. If you're sitting there that's like, hey, listen, there's like 5 goblins that are like running through a door, and I'm like, okay, cool. I got a lot of attacks. I'm a fighter. I can hit 3 of them. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna hit 3 of them. You know what'll be more effective? I'm going to blow my entire lungs out of fire, of acid in their general direction and ignite all of them, right? Okay, some of them save, some of them don't. Cool. Let's say 4 out of 5 of them save. They're still taking half damage.
That's true.
You know, you're still tagging all of them, and they don't have a lot of life. Maybe it's like a swarm or some shit where it's like, hey, my weapon isn't going to be super effective in this moment, right? But you know what will be? Kona cold. Right now, all those fucking rats just, freeze in their tracks.
Yeah.
Right? It's a choice. And even as a choice, it's still pretty strong. I would kind of like it. I think having it as a bonus action would be dope, but that's just me being greedy, I feel. Like, remember, it is an action. It scales with your level. It does a D10, which is the highest out of all the other spells outside. Like, I know for like cantrips, it was Eldritch Blast is the only other one that did a D10, right? So D10 plus your level, not even a modifier, just guaranteed. Level 5, I'm getting 15. Level 6, I'm getting 16. Something like that. I don't hate it. I do think it could be reworked. Right, but remember, it gives you access to an AoE spell or an AoE ability that nobody else really has, and it's built in to your race.
Yeah.
Hey, I think that's kind of cool. What about you, Steve? Was there any of the non-magical races that gave like an extra ability that you thought was interesting?
Halflings I didn't feel changed too much. I still got luck, which is you get a reroll a 1 on a d20. If you roll the 1, you could reroll it. I don't know if the halflings had this before, but they have brave, which is advantage on save throws made to avoid the frightened condition on yourself, which is cool if you actually know anything about Kenders from Dragonlance.
Yeah,
it was a kind of reference to them. So a lot of the other stuff that they gave. They reworked Gnomes to an extent with that. They gave them that whole like cantrip at first level, but they didn't get anything at higher levels. They got other kind of benefits. But I kind of think we touched on most of the changes from our race perspective. I'm just not keen on the things where some of the race choices gave you a choice of size. I'm too old school for that. It's a little like when like in my head there's a statistical benefit. The other thing that I don't know if this is probably from 5th edition as well. Almost everyone moves at 30 feet.
Yeah, that's a 5th edition thing.
Yeah,
I'm used to different races moving at different
25,
speeds, so that's just a thing for me.
Yeah, some I think were 25, but for the most part it was 30, if I remember right. I could be bugging at this moment, having a mental fart.
They said so sprites were 15 or 20 because they were tiny. That was the statistical change for they so it's medium small move at 30 and tiny move I think at 20 because you're like I don't even know what like tiny consists of. Like, is it like cell phone big or is it like?
I think so. Like cats are tiny.
2 feet. Like tiny is small is like what 2 feet. I think tiny is like you're smaller than a
small
foot.
is I think
so it's like a rat.
2 to 4.
Like you're a rat.
3 to 4 feet is small.
Yeah. So tiny would be cat, dog, like small dog. Because like some dogs are medium to large.
Yeah.
Like a bull mastiff.
You got a mastiff. That's a person.
That's a you're fighting with an additional person on your team. Someone in my neighborhood had a bull mastiff, and I swear to God, I thought. So this is what I saw. I was driving home. Quick side. Sorry, I was driving home, and I saw the bull mastiff. Right. So I saw a dog-like entity up on its hind legs, and it was walking like that. And I thought I had a stroke or like this was it. I was like, oh shit, it's a werewolf.
It's a werewolf.
This is it. I was like, this is it. It's a werewolf or I'm having a stroke. Well, the bull mastiff was playing with the owner. And if anyone's ever seen a bull mastiff, they're about 6 feet long. So on their hind legs, it looks like a human dog person. And I was like, what is happening?
You got problems.
And then it dropped and I saw the person was wearing black and it was like nighttime. So like there was the clear like, oh, okay, like now I see the human aspect to what's happening. And my world stopped at that moment. I was like, I don't want to fight a werewolf.
You should have failed this fear check.
Yeah, I had bravery, but my sanity check dropped. I was like, I'll fight, but I'm not going to be normal after.
Nah, people are like, yo, I saw some shit. I fought a skinwalker today. What?
Yeah.
I went to Panera Bread. That's what I did today. I'm sorry. Somebody brought this up in chat, Jibba Jabba. Also, that is something that I have in my notes on things that I was just like, wait, no Eldritch Blast. What's up with Eldritch Blast? Now, I have a theory. My theory is that Eldritch Blast will be tied in with the Warlock class when it comes out. I don't know. That's my theory because it kind of makes some sense. That majority of the time, if you were using Eldritch Blast, it was because you were a Warlock and they got like the most benefit out of it. Because, you know, they could add their modifiers to it. They could get it to push back. You know, they got multiple shots with it, like all sorts of crazy stuff. You know, you can make it glow green, you know, it makes your body parts bigger. No, I'm just stopping. But like real talk, that's kind of the way that it worked and it made the most sense. So that's my theory. I kind of wish that they said something about it, but who knows? This is a playtest, so maybe they'll bring that up later. But I think that there are a lot of other spells that are missing, and the fact that they also kind of put things into 3 classes for spells, the Arcane, Primordial, and Divine. I didn't play too many casters. Like Warlock, I've played a lot of Paladins and Clerics, I play a lot of Sorcerer, Wizard, Druid, not so much. Right now, bards that have like a kind of mix mash of, you know, different types. I want to see what they're gonna do with that. Like, I'm curious what direction they're going with some of the classes that have like access to multiple schools, or is it not so much schools, but like the like I don't remember what the hell they're called, but like the hierarchies of magic. Arcane, Primordial, Divine. Well, we'll see what goes on with there. A thing that I liked was some of the feats that they tweaked, right? Now, one in particular I'll pick is the healer kit. The healer feat, let me scroll all the way down
page
to the
16.
healer's feat. Page 16, right? A lot of the things are like, hey, you're brand new to the game. You're looking at it and you're like, hey, I'm going to play the healer. That's what I'm going to do. cool. I'm gonna pick this healer feat. The way it worked before, it did not really help you. If you were a cleric and you had a healer, you're like, oh, I can use my healing kit to heal people. Okay, cool. Does it make me a better healer? No. You can just now use a kit that you need and have to be proficient at it. So wait, I got a waste of proficiency and I got some shit that'll like, it runs out. That kind of stinks. They tweaked it, right? So it says now you have training and intuition to administer first aid and other care, effectively granting you the following benefits. Battle medic. If you have the healer's kit, you can spend one use of it and tend to a creature within 5 feet of you as an action. That creature can expend one of its hit dice, and you then roll that die. That creature gains a number of hit points equal to the roll plus your proficiency bonus. Hey, quick heal from an item, bang, you got that. No pots, no problem. I got you. Okay, but I don't have that. Come on, senpai, help me out. Healing rerolls. Whenever you roll a die to determine the number of hit points you restore with the spell or with this feat's battle medic benefit, you can re-roll the die if it's a 1 and you must use the new roll. You roll trash? Oh shit, I rolled 3 1s. Re-roll them motherfuckers. That's dope.
If I may?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. So, in comparison to the new healer, which I'm hyped about, like Fabio got me hyped about healer because it was trash in 5th edition. Yeah. So just so you understand, when you use a healer's kit to stabilize a dying creature, it gains 1 hit point, so it pops up from 0 to 1, allowing it to be a combative entity at that point. As an action, you could spend 1 use of a healer's kit to tend to a creature and restore 1d6 plus 4 hit points, plus additional hit points equal to the maximum number of hit die. So that would be 20 at 20th level. Not that great. The creature can't regain hit points from this feat until it finishes a short or long rest. So I think they need to add that in, because that battle medic, you could probably keep doing, but you're burning your healer kit. So yeah. I guess it's fair.
That's the trade-off. It's a consumable item at that point, but as an action, you're just like, yo, I don't have any spells right now, but max level, yo, here's 20 HP just cause. Low level, okay, my proficiency is 2, right? And it's like, and I use one of your hit die. Hey, you're a wizard? I think they get like a D6. Nah, yeah. All right, fine. Yeah, but it's 2 plus a D6. Not terrible. You're not dying anymore. Hey, you're a fighter. Was it 2 plus D10? All right, cool. Hey, you're back in the mix. Maybe if you take 1 more hit, right? But you're alive and running around. It's not just 1. You might be able to take 1 more lobby hit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you could take 1 more scrape and get back in the fray. But the whole benefit of it is the fact that you can re-roll the 1s, right? And that's something that I know that a lot of people within the D&D community kind of bitched about, because it's one of those things that intuitive you would take because you're going to heal a roll, especially if you're new to the game. And the fact that it actually can help you and benefits you off the bat, and it doesn't matter if you're new and realize, hey, this is cool, or you're old and realize, hey, this is not really going to work. This will benefit you regardless. I think is a welcome change that they brought into the game, right? Another one they kind of changed was the lucky, because they stopped making it be broken, right? Where there's like, I can do a whole bunch of cool shit. Yeah, they changed it now to make it not broken. So now what the lucky feat does is you have a number of lucky points equal to your proficiency bonus. You can spend that point on the benefits below, and you gain your expended luck points when you finish a long rest. Immediately after you roll a d20 for a d20 test, basically like a skill check, attack roll, or saving throw, you can spend 1 luck point to give yourself advantage on the roll. So it's like, hey, all right, you have yourself built-in advantage. Or here's a cool thing, disadvantage. When a creature rolls a d20 for an attack roll against you, you can spend the luck point to impose disadvantage.
That's so dope.
I like that. Not as broken as it was before, right? And I think I got to pull that up just so everybody kind of knows what the lucky feat was.
So Fabio ran a one shot for us, like long, and I got to play Nilbog, the Bard.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
a Goblin Bard, and he was built all around just having like luck and giving like being an asshole to Fabio when he rolled. Like whenever Fabio picked his dice up, I was specifically trying to make him have the worst rolls possible, and then give my friends positives. So I took like the lucky feat, but then I had like the divine I mixed in like divine caster, so I could have that like that like I roll 2 d20s in the morning and I choose which one I want. So I was being an asshole to Fabio the whole time.
While it was worth it. I was like, I'll just throw some bullshit at him. All right, the old one, the way it works is you have an inexplicable luck that seems to kick in just at the right moment. You have 3 luck points. Whenever you make an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw, you can spend 1 luck point to roll an additional d20. You can choose to spend 1 of your luck points after you roll the die, before the outcome is determined. You choose which of the 20s is used for the attack roll, ability check, or saving throw.
Mhm.
You can also spend 1 luck point with an attack roll made against you, roll d20, and then choose whether attack uses the attacker's roll or yours. If more than one creature spends a luck point to influence the outcome of a roll, the point cancels each other out. No additional dice are rolled. You regain the expended luck point when you finish a long rest. Certain things are like kind of similar, but they kind of like tweaked it.
Yeah.
I kind of like where the new way is going. It kind of makes it so like you can kind of use it offensively and defensively, but it's like pretty straightforward of like you got advantage. You know you got advantage. Cool. Make it clean. Oh, you're giving them disadvantage? Cool. Make it clean. You understand how it works. And it did that with a couple of the feats, and I like where they're going with listening and making things make sense. I don't know how much you guys looked into the feats, but did you guys see anything that you thought was interesting, or you thought was like, oh, I like this, or I hate it with my whole heart?
The musician feat is one of my favorite ones because it reminded me of an earlier feat from 5th edition where it was like you give an inspired leader or something like that. I forget the name.
Yeah.
Where you give someone like, you just hype everyone up and you give people temps.
Yeah.
This is very similar. You gain tool proficiency with 3 musical instruments of your choice. So obviously let your players, I'm always pro, like whatever your players want to choose. So if someone's like, I want to beatbox, knock yourself out.
Yes.
You know, so sure, beatbox is a musical instrument, but you get the inspiring song feature as you finish a short rest or a long rest. And I think this is like one of the only times it says short rest, like throughout this playtest. You can play a song on a musical instrument or beatbox and give inspiration to allies who hear the song. The number of allies you can affect equals your proficiency bonus. I like this a lot because as a bard, you have, obviously we don't know the classes, but my assumption is you'll still have that bardic inspiration. And then this is, right, like, yeah. And then this is just even more because bardic inspiration was hard to keep around. And this was that weird thing. Bardic inspiration only came around on a long rest until you hit like level 3 or 5 or something like that. And then it came around on a short rest. But the way 5th edition was played, most players took short rest. So as a bard, you had to be real stingy with giving inspiration, which is exactly like your whole class was built around that. So you're like, do I really like the fighter? No. You know? But like this is just another thing. So like you can shore up like just a natural abilities you might have, right? So if you have bardic inspiration and you have a small number, maybe it's only equal to your proficiency bonus or whatever, that maybe they give you 4, whatever number they give you, right? And they say, hey, they come back on a long rest, taking this feat, right, which you can easily get from a background or being a human and getting that feat. You now have that ability to be like, oh, I'm not gonna be super stingy. You know, oh, we took a short rest, cool. Fabio, you get inspiration because you heard my dope beatboxing skills, and Steve, you get inspiration, but Trevor doesn't because I'm only a level 1 bard. So I had to make a hard choice there. Sorry, Trevor.
But at least with this one, the way I have it's all it's to allies who hear the song. So
Yeah.
Trevor can get it too. The number of allies you can affect in this way equals your proficiency bonus.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll get in the mix. Fuck it.
I get it, right? Like as a DM, you might want to like maybe allow a little more, depending. But also, I like it's only after you finish the short rest or long rest you can play a musical song, but it doesn't say directly after. It says, it says as you finish. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's as I'm finishing, I drop hot beats.
Yeah, so it's like, we're doing like the long short rest. Everybody's like chilling. You drop in like your little symphony of beatboxing and
In my head,
all them notes.
I become Will Smith from Men in Black in the post office.
Go ham, right?
Yep.
And then so like you can do something like that, and it gives you like a little bonus, and it's just cool.
Nice.
Inspiration. There are times, and I know I've done this as a DM, where I've been unintentionally stingy with inspiration, and it's not for any reason outside of I forget. I will give my players advantage, on rolls if they're doing something cool, but to remember to reward them with inspiration because they did something RP wise cool that they can use later. I'll forget that. I'll be honest with you. I'll be like, oh man, that was dope. Yeah, here's extra money. Or maybe I'll remember to give them inspiration. They give you a lot of different ways to gain inspiration in this game and reward your characters with inspiration. So it's like, you rolled a nat 20, bang, inspiration. You have the musician feat, bang, inspiration. You're a human and you have that, I forget what it's called, but you wake up in the morning, bang, inspiration.
Yeah. Now don't forget, you can only have one inspiration, so it's incentive to keep using.
Yeah, I think the way the rule states, it's either you can't gain a new one or gaining a new one kicks out the old one.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you can only have one
at
and
any time.
Yeah, and if you have an inspiration and you long rest, you lose your inspiration. Yeah, so you can only hold it for that day.
Yeah.
If you haven't used it.
I'm also gonna rule right now online in front of everyone that when we do play this playtest and we build characters, and as it's going to come, Fabio's not allowed to take the crafter feat ever. I am DM
Get 3 tool
forcing it.
proficiencies. Yep.
No, it's because it literally says whenever you buy non-magical items, you get 20% discount on
Yep.
it. Fabio always haggles. And like, I realized this a long time. I'm sorry. I realized this a long time ago as a GM. I have to start my game with the highest possible prices on items because I know Fabio's going to argue with me, RP and outside of RP, to get it down lower. So I like, okay, let's say like a brick of wax, right? Like Fabio's character needs a brick of wax, right? It's like 2 copper pieces. I'm like, yo, it's 10 copper pieces. And then finally he'll argue me down to the 2 copper pieces that it starts at. And he's like, fine, fair. And I was like, oh my God, fine, good. But
what you have to do is you basically say, if you can take the crafter feat, you can't bitch about prices. So you just get the 20%. That's your haggle. You already haggled.
For free. I don't understand why you do this. Give me what I want for free. That's it. I don't ask for much.
So 20% discount goes to free.
Give me my shit for free. Then we will just stop all the shenanigans. No problems. No problems. Fabio, what do you want? That for free. Fine. And I will shut up for the next hour.
He's already putting it in his pocket.
he's just walking out the store with it.
Yeah, I just take it. Then it's like, he just took it. Yeah, I know him. He's just a thief. You're not going to call the cops? The guards? Nah, we just let him have it. He's cool. But you got to pay 100 gold for it. Wait, I'm not cool? Nah, you're not as cool as him. Just let him rock. I'm taking the one thing, I'm leaving. Wait, but you didn't want the Dragon Lance? Nah, I got what I needed for free. I'm good. I'm out. That's it. I'm not greedy, bro. Just give it to me for free, though.
I'm just saying, I love you with all of my heart. You know that. But you fucking haggle every time. Every time. And it could be like, you've gotten much better. Like, we've both gotten much better with it. Like, both of us have like grown as people. Because I used to get like legitimately mad because I would start it like low price, already like 10-20% off, and he would still haggle. and I'd be like this. I would look him in the eye, and he would have it open to the page of the item, and he would know the price, and he would know why. Like, oh, it's 10 gold pieces. All right, the shop keeps selling it for 5, and then Fabio starts to haggle. I'm like, bitch, you already know I put it in half. You're looking at the numbers. He was like, I'm still gonna argue about it. I was like,
I have to. That's built in all of my characters. Yeah. That's one of the things that's always the same. All my characters like to talk shit, and all my characters like to get stuff for free.
So it's a fair assessment, but I do like Crafter because we've had this conversation before about the charisma, the characters who are naturally charismatic versus characters who are playing just to like who aren't naturally charismatic, right? Like so. We've had this argument where like the argument of like roleplay comes in. I like it because it naturally gives you that 20% off, and you know that the player, like the shy player who doesn't really argue or has an affinity of not argue, like they get maybe anxious from arguments, right? Like they avoid arguments, which is perfectly fine. I like that's built in, and they were like helping someone out. They're like, yo, we hear you, we understand that you don't want to like maybe roleplay this out. So we're going to help you a little bit. We're going to say you naturally get a 20%. Now, on my end, that's a bitch because now I have to whip out a calculator and go 100 gold times 0.20, figure out how much.
80 gold.
Remember, my job is math, bro. And Steve's good at math, bro. Why do you think I haggle all the time, bro? Fabio, what's the math? I'll tell you the math. Don't ask me for my stuff. I will cheat you out every time. I will lie to you. I'm looking you right in the eye, bro. I will lie to you. I will lie to you.
Trying to roll charisma but thievery at the same time.
Absolutely.
Speaking of that, I know we're gonna go back to feats for a second. I'm starting to see a pattern, and I'm not sure if I like it or not. But the feat that I was actually looking at was Tavern Brawler, because we all know that we like bar fights.
Yes.
So this gave you a couple of cool abilities. So first off, we're gonna go into the basic unarmed attack. If you decide to punch someone in the face, your damage is not a die size. It's 1 plus your strength.
Yes.
It's just punch.
Is that what it's saying?
Yeah, that's what it says.
That's
in
the
the
way it's always
playtest.
been.
I wasn't sure. In the playtest, it says that's what the unarmed strike is.
It's 1 plus your strength.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
But it's the way it's always been if you're just making, unless you have something that tells you otherwise.
Yeah. And then Tavern Brawler says when you hit with your unarmed strike, you deal damage. You can deal bludgeoning damage equal to D4 plus your strength, which matters for crits, which we'll get into in a second. But crits only crit if you can actually roll a dice. If you have flat damage, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Okay, so this gives you basically a D4, so it gives you a die size plus your strength. So that's awesome, right? You can re-roll when you're using unarmed strike. You can re-roll ones, just like that healer feat we talked about before, and you have to use the new result.
Yeah.
You can shove with an attack action, and you can push someone away. You can only use this once a turn. And then this is, I think this is tongue in cheek, but this is also hilarious. Furniture as weapons. You can wield furniture as a weapon using the rules for great club for small or medium furniture, and the rules for a club for tiny furniture. So you can pick up a chair and punch someone with it.
Yep.
I'm glad they gave like a actual like a chair.
Range.
Yeah, like a bar stool is a club. Versus
tiny or small or medium furniture, and it gives you a die size comparable.
Like if you pick up a glass bottle, it's a club. Like you know what it is, right? Like you're like, okay, smash. All right, it's club damage. I pick up a whole chair and hit you with it, it's great club damage.
Yeah, we can even say that you can pick up like a bar stool and it starts as a great club, but after that first hit, or maybe you crit, it breaks down into a tiny furniture, and then now you have
that makes sense.
Boom,
now you actually have a club.
That's not in the rules, but that's literally what's going to happen if I ever GM and someone uses this. So it's got, the chair explodes and now you have a club.
Yeah, or like pool cue is a club, like that, like.
Here's my concern, right? So we talked about this. We talked about the healer's feat. We talked about what was the other feat we mentioned? New musician. And we talked about like that mimics. Now, yet again, we haven't seen classes, but I'm seeing a number of feats. And remember, these are only feats for first level. Feats are now a more integrated part of the game in this edition. So originally in 5th edition, feats are completely optional, and the GM could say no feats. You're just doing. We're ignoring feats. We're just doing you get stat bumps, right?
Going in raw.
Now every first level character is getting a feat, and there's also ways to get bonus feats, like with human, and we're gonna get feats at various levels now. So these are only the first level feats, so there are going to be more feats. What I see, though, is the concern is that I see feats that are replicating, even to a minor degree, class features. So the question is are they replacing those class features, or are those class features going to be like a superior version of this? So this is the concern of that anytime you see a feat mimic a class feature is concerning. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it's like you never want to have that feeling that like, oh, I'm the bard and my bardic and my inspiration is something that someone can get as a feat. So what makes me special?
Oh,
right?
because musician. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Or like I'm a monk and you're the fighter, right? You took Tavern Brawler. I'm the monk. You took a feat that's replicating my class feature. So I'm pretty sure that D&D and Wizards of the Coast are good to be on top of it. That won't happen. So where, like I said, it's probably going to be like the monk is going to have a more specialized, maybe their die size is bigger, maybe they get extra benefits, but it's just a warning sign here for me when I see stuff like that is just be careful when you're having things replicate things that classes can do.
I agree 100% because I know that was a couple of things that did happen previously, when it's just like, oh, I can make a better monk as a fighter than I could by being a monk, and it was just for damage purposes in certain scenarios, right? Where just like, oh, I can hit just as hard and do yada yada yada. Yeah, in certain scenarios, if you had breast knuckles or if you made sure you use your axe and surge, yeah, sure, you're not 100% wrong. He was like a major component for situations like that, which make it so the monk's going to be better than somebody that has like just a Tavern Brawler feat, right? With musician, when you have like your bard with their bardic inspiration, you're adding like something like a d6 on top of a roll. It wasn't just, hey, I get advantage. It's no, I'm rolling a d6 in addition to whatever it is I'm rolling on what they're saying is the skill check or the d20 test. So it's not like I rolled a 15 on my dice, I have a plus 1. Oh man, it's only a 16. Well, I got bardic, I rolled that. Oh man, I rolled a 3. That's 16. Just turned into a 19. You know what I mean? In situations like that, like there was always like a clear distinction that like the class version is going to be that much better. But I do see what you're saying, because there was a couple of like errata feats that did cross over, that did make it so that it was borderline, or with the right weird combination of feats, you just got stupid, right? Yeah. And if you were human and you took multiple, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna be a problem right now, in addition to yada yada yada. So like I can definitely see that where certain things get close, and I do hope, which is probably why they didn't give out classes, and also just not to overwhelm us to completely, where it's stick with this first, tell us what you think. You like it, give us a thumbs up, not give us the middle finger, right? And then we can start branching off from there. I want to see what they're going to do with the tweaking of the classes, and see where that goes.
Yeah, it's also a cool thing of like anytime you're changing something major, having a small amount of changes is better, because if you change a whole bunch of stuff, you don't know what's the problem. So they're letting you take this template of what changed and put it on already existing classes in 5th edition. So, okay, if there is a problem, we know it's feat, or we know it's how we change the races, or we know it's how we change this rule of tools, or whatever the changes that they made. So I'm not saying that, oh, it's a problem, they need to fix it. No, I'm just saying that this is...
Keep an eye on it.
Keep an eye on it. This is definitely a concern when I see that.
I agree 100%.
I guess then the next thing we're going to go to is D20 tests and critical hits. So the changes here...
You write down the line, Steve. It's right there. It's only Eldritch Blast, no crits.
All right. So going back to, I'm going to go over a little bit more of not just crits, but what a D20 test is. Anytime you roll a D20, that's a test. Saving throws, skill checks, attack rolls. Anytime you roll a D20, it's a check. It's a test, excuse me. All rolls of a 1 automatically fail. All rolls of a 20 automatically succeed. I already have issues with that. I'm from Pathfinder, where if I am a 15th level character and I roll a 1 and you're like a nobody, I should still hit you. I'm sorry. And yet again, if I'm a level 1 person and you're like way high level and I roll 20, it shouldn't automatically hit. And they even mentioned that 20 shouldn't automatically be, if the situation is so unbelievable, that a 20 shouldn't be a automatic hit or success. then don't make, like you said, like the level 1 rogue stealing from the dragon while the dragon's just staring him down. Okay, we get it. 20's not automatic success, but the one always failing and the 20's automatic success. I'm more to that 80-20 rule.
So, if you don't mind, Fabio, I have to jump in and just get real mad real fast. I hate that so much. I hate it so freaking much. Sorry, I almost started swearing.
We're too late for that, man. We already started doing it before.
I'm mad at Bob's, bro.
And I'm so mad at it. And the reason why I say this is because like rolling a skill check, and I classify skill check in this concept of like rolling to attack, rolling to do something, is used when the outcome is completely uncertain. It's up for grabs, right? And if I equate it to the real world, I don't roll normally a skill check when I open up a drawer to get my spoon for breakfast, right? That shouldn't include a skill check. Now, sometimes the universe likes to play games. You pull that drawer too hard and you roll that nat 20 and you rip it out of its socket, or is that a 1, right? Depending on how you look at it. You're like, yeah, I did like 5 push-ups this morning. I'm brolic. Ah! But also now I need to fix that, right? So, like that's how I equate skill checks, is like if it's completely uncertain, right? And the argument of like, well, and then I heard the argument, right? I've been on the forums, I've been on Reddit. People are like, hey, GM's already house ruled this because it was from older editions. It was a concept in older editions. You know, we just saw it on Stranger Things. The younger sister killed what's his name? Vecna with a nat 20, but since they were playing AD&D, she showed the water rolled a 1 because THAC0 was a thing. So rolling a 20, she technically failed. But that's besides the point of how THAC0 works. But anyway, so just rolling the success and the crit success, right? So like, let's say we're playing a game and Fabio wants to, like, sometimes I don't even, and we've had this conversation before, right? So I'm just repeating myself. If you want to see these conversations, check out our YouTube page, some of the backlog stuff. We talk about charisma, same 3 of us argue that point. We talked about skill checks, same 3 of us argue that point. So it's happened up before times, but, and like a lot of times that like it should only come up when it's completely uncertain, right? If not, if the ceiling isn't collapsing, the rogue shouldn't have to make a skill check to open the locked door. It should just be the rogue gets to the door, uses thieves' tools to open the door. Let's continue narratively moving forward, because nothing bad is happening, right? Nothing terrible is happening unless opening that door will initiate something terrible. But right, like that, right? Like I can make that argument. Like Fabio, you come to the, like when we used to play D&D in law school, right?
Yeah.
I've seen Fabio lockpick the door to get us in, a few times. Life. But nothing bad would have ever happened to us because we were allowed to be there. It was just he was really good at unjiggling the door and getting the key in the proper way to open the door. But nothing, we were supposed to be there. It was perfectly acceptable. It didn't matter if it took him an hour to do it or it took him 5 seconds to do it. We were still always going, we were still always getting in, and we were going to be fine. Whether or not a security guard came by, and they had come by a few times, and they were like, hey, what up? We're like, what up? You know, the sanitation workers, it was nothing bad would have happened. So that's all I'm saying is like skill checks should come when the outcome is uncertain, and a 1 shouldn't be a natural failure, and a 20 shouldn't always be a natural success. Because let's say you're now coming to the silliness of Fabio's arguing with a street urchin about getting his meat stick, and he's
like a bad argument, bro.
This has happened.
It sounds like I'm going to jail argument, dude. I don't like this at all.
I'm gonna interject here. I know that you're telling the urchin story, which I think is funny, but yet again, anything that was not determined in this set with this PDF playtest, which is only like 21 pages, 21. Yeah, I think it's funny. You use the 5th edition rules. Now in 5th edition, I just looked it up because I was before I said anything, I wanted to be sure. The GM calls for ability checks. The GM calls for a die roll. So if you literally are like, my character gets up in the morning and they shave, roll a d20, 1, you slit your throat. No, of course that doesn't happen. Right?
Just
I'm putting this in my notes. The Star Jammer. I'm just letting y'all know. I tied my shoe.
Dead.
What happened? You folded. You folded half. You just folded to a pretzel. Gravity well just sucks you out of the airlock. Wait.
The shame just nope.
So only when the GM calls for a check. So if you don't feel that something requires a check, don't make the player roll. That's really the answer to this question. Yeah. I'm just saying that at some point, again, it actually calls for like when the GM makes a DC, the DC has to. And the funny thing is, this is another thing which I'm not a huge fan of, where they setting guidelines and they're setting the goalposts, right? And the GM determines the test, the requirement, right? The challenge, right? It has to be within 5 and 30. That's literally in here. I don't know if that was in original D&D. I couldn't find that.
But that's the thing. But that's the thing. If you're making somebody roll a dice, right, and you're giving them the chance that there should be success and there should be failure, the range has to be within the range that they can actually. If you make it 40, it's impossible. There's no way that you can roll, even with a nat 20. You're not getting it, right? You're never going to hit 40, right? So that's kind of unfair.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about the numbers.
And the other one putting in 0, it's just like, well, you got to at least give them some difficulty. You know, if you roll a 1 plus modifiers and your modifier is 0, right? Like you fail, right? Yeah. So I think it's like, hey, just like you were saying, you know, like shaving, slitting throats, and tying shoesing and sucked out airlock, right? For the most part, you're not going to have people roll on these things. And like Jared is perfectly right. Do not have your players roll if you don't expect, if you're making it an impossible outcome, or if you don't want there to be like the possibility of failure or success. If there's like, yo, the halfling's like, hey, I want to like steal from the dragon's staring directly at you, and he's looking at you going, do it, I dare you, right? And you're just like, he's staring directly at you. You tell him that there's not gonna be a roll if he's staring directly at you. And I want to try, and he's like goes, and he's following you as you move around, thinking that you're invisible, and he's maintaining eye contact with you as you're walking through, and goes, so what you doing over there, little invisible boy? I see you. There's no roll for that. You just RP that shit out and be like, yeah, this is not going to work. You're not stealing shit. You put the things out there like that. But I will agree with the two of you in this, the whole automatic failure and automatic success. I don't know about that. Like, part of me is just like, DMs are going to play it the way you're going to DM it anyway. And like, I usually DM it in the say of, if I'm having you rolled, I want you to know that there's a possibility of success or failure. Yeah. Right. And if you're asking me something like, hey, can I roll for this? I'll either let you know what's happening as a DM, or I'm going to say, you know what? Fuck it. Go for it. Let's see what happens. I don't like that spells don't crit. I don't like that.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a second. Crit. Yeah. Go ahead, Jared. I was going to say one more thing about D20's critting, but
this is in line with everything. Yeah. So I was rewatching the D&D 1 stream, and it was either in that or an earlier stream. I had nothing better to do at like 4 p.m. this afternoon at work. So I was rewatching the streams, just going through, and Chris Perkins said, monsters, they're criticals. I don't know if this is how they're going to keep working it, and I dislike this concept. I have to see it, but the way it gives me a bad taste, right? Like, you know, when you read a menu item, and you're like, that doesn't sound like it should taste good. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So the concept is on a natural 20, the monsters won't crit, but they will either recharge abilities or they will get abilities.
Yeah.
So, you rolled in that 20. Yeah, like you rolled in that 20, your dragon instantly recharges its breath weapon. Or the bugbear gets to now like use stealth or disengage or like. But my problem is, we've already seen in 5th edition, the monster manual is lacking. Monsters are lacking in the monster manual in the department of cool shit. So now I'm expecting the newest edition to come up with an infinite number of cool shit, I feel like it's gonna get very repetitive very quickly. Like, okay, Mind Flare recharges it Mind Blast. The Dragon recharges its Fire Breath. The Beholder recharges its Eye Stalks. By the way, if I don't read, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to just become very repetitive, and that's my biggest fear with the recharging concept.
Yeah, so kind of rolling back on the rolling a 20 for a player being an automatic success. That I have more of a problem with that than the rolling the 1 is an instant failure. Because, all right, let's say you put all of your effort, your whatever class you are, whatever skill it is, you decided that this is gonna be my jam. Maybe I only have that many. I didn't put too much into skill points. I didn't take too much skilled feats, whatever. This one skill is gonna be my jam. I'm gonna be the best at this thing. And you just happen to roll bad, whether you rolled the 1, whether you rolled low, and you didn't get it. And someone goes, well, I'm trained in that too, let me try. And then like the barbarian who's like dumped intelligence rolls a 20 on the arcana check and goes, oh yeah, I know all the magic, I'm the arch wizard of the freaking universe. And the wizard's like, motherfucker, you know. And it's just like that's the issue with the all 20s being, yeah, it's nothing skillful or unique happened. You just happen to roll a 1 on a 20 die roll. You had to happen to hit it, that number.
You got lucky, but we've all had those moments, and we've all seen that moment in every single game we've ever played. The rogue rolls shitty on stealth, and for some reason the armored knight just got sneakily by. We've all seen that happen, right? It's luck. It's part of this game is luck. So I get that. I'm still under the idea of, if you're rolling, you can always, maybe that wizard had a brain fart and just like, what's the name of that freaking book with the thing in it? And then the dumb barbarian goes, the Necronomicon, and you're like, how the fuck you know that? You know, it just, you got lucky. That's it. You know, and it's like, yo, the wizard should know about the Necronomicon, and the barbarian should not know about the Necronomicon, right?
Oh, this, and he pulls it out.
Yeah, it was a whip it out. And like, Klautu Barata Niktu, you can speak it too. You know, it's kind of crazy, but it's, I can give more leeway to that. I'm not particularly fond of it, and it's like, I feel like every DM is going to kind of play it their own way. Remember, these are guidelines. These are not everything cut in stone, right? But I'm okay-ish with that. But I can understand, like, I can definitely see the argument of, it kind of sucks of like, yo, if I got a +10, I only need a 10, and I roll a 1 and I fail. It's like, come on, man. Like, can I live?
And ironically, if you have a +10 and you roll a 1 and you needed a 10, technically you would have passed, because it would have been a 1 plus a 10. You got an 11.
Exactly.
But because the standing rule, it doesn't even matter. It says, because even it says on a 1, even including modifiers, you automatically fail.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I
think in
think
that situation, I don't like it.
Yeah, I think if they tweaked it and they said, you roll a 1
and still succeed,
it's acceptable. But if you roll a 1 and there's, even with your modifiers, there's no, like, right, like, there's got to be a better English way. I'm not here to rewrite it for them, but even like rolling a 20,
it's tricky.
It's tricky. They put it. Here's the thing: they put a caveat for rolling a 20, but not for rolling a 1.
Yeah,
right. 1 is you
rolling
fail.
A 20. Yeah, rolling a 20 does not bypass limitations on the test, such as range and line of sight. A 20 bypasses only the bonuses and penalties to the roll.
Yeah.
So like maybe 20 you succeed, but they're still within the, you got to know what's going on. Like, I don't hate this, I don't like it, but I don't hate it. But I'm not going to front like I don't. Somebody, you rolled a nat 1, it is like, all right, we all know you failed.
Yeah,
like, we all know if somebody rolled a nat 1, and we always usually play like, oh shit, I rolled a nat 1.
Yeah,
you failed. And we usually just can't add, it's not a critical fail, like, your bow blows up. You know, like, maybe you jack up a string and you have to take an action if it's in combat. That's usually the worst.
I think that's my biggest fear, is this gives a lot of headway to our DMs acting a fool, because we've all acted a fool as a new DM, and like, oh, you rolled a 1 on your lockpick, or your hands explode. Wait, what?
Yeah, but this just says you fail.
Yeah,
it says if you roll like, hey, the DC was a 15, I rolled a 14, that's a fail. You rolled a nat 1, it's the same equivalent as you rolling a 14, you fail. Now, if you have a DM that's just like, you fail and locks a mimic now and bites your dominant hand off, you have a dick for a DM, right? But you know, if that wasn't part of the encounter, they're just being mean to be mean.
Yeah.
I think with this, it kind of gives you the idea of you're rolling and you should be rolling. Understand that you have a possibility of success and you have a possibility of failure. I feel like there's a way at Roto where it's like it's rubbing people the wrong way, but I think that a lot of people also got to remember that most people play it this way. There are very few times that I know if you roll a 1 and you have a 10 that it's going to be an 11 and you still pass on a DC 10 check. It's more often than not you rolled a 1, everybody at the table knows, crap, I failed, and you keep the ball going. It's whether like critical fails and critical successes where the thing is like, nah, you passed or you failed.
I think that makes me feel a little better because I was reading it as critical failure, right? Like in my head.
That's not the thing. Yeah, we're used to second edition Pathfinder.
Yeah. There's no critical failure. It's you just failed. You rolled a 14 on a DC 15, whether you rolled a 1 or a 3 or a 5.
I think, you know, I was looking at it of like the 1 is a critical fail, which they did remove. Fabio's right. They just said it's just a fail.
Blaze asked the question, if you take those feats you were talking about where you reroll 1s and take the new results of healing, what now? How does that differ from gaining advantage on the trigger roll if you crit fail?
That was not a test, I don't think.
Yeah.
That is just like you roll the heal.
Yeah, it's the hit die for like healing. Like you roll a d6 and you roll a 1, you reroll the d6, right? If you're doing like a medicine check or something like that, that's different because then it's the d20 test.
Yeah.
So you don't get the reroll 1s on a d20 test. You get the reroll 1s on like healing die or a specific type of damage die if it's Tavern Brawler and stuff like that.
So the halfling does get the ability to reroll a 1 on a test. Then again, it lets you reroll it and you have to take the new result. So yeah, so it's not instantaneous. So it's if you have an ability to reroll that die, you're allowed to attempt that reroll. So
I mean, you could also be a dick and be like, I rolled a 5, you know, and hope for that 6, but don't do that.
Don't do that. It's a waste because you got to take the new one.
You have
no.
to.
With a lot of those things that you had, like on the medic one, you can only reroll once, so you can't reroll. Yeah. The other thing we'll kind of touch on for a second is rolling 20s gives you inspiration.
Oh, for the crits. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I like that.
My question is, I need to see how because they said they're reworking inspiration. And they're rework. Like, my biggest concern is we're just gonna see humans get inspiration for going to bed.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that, right? And a lot of things give inspiration. So my biggest concern is now we're gonna see a lot more advantage being rolled 2d20s, and we already know mathematically you have a higher percentage of. So this is
rolling more dice because you're rolling advantage.
Yeah. But no, what I'm saying is like a lot of people, a lot of old players, right? Like older players are argue that 5th edition turned D&D into the Avengers. Like you're no longer heroes, you're now epic superheroes. Even like level 1, like it's like the superiorness of your character. And again, I understand it's the heroic fantasy. We all want to play Hercules, Gilgamesh, you know, all of those. I understand that. What I'm saying is like now we're gonna start seeing like these massive swings in damage to the monsters, right? Because now imagine like the paladin barbarian hybrid that Charles was playing, Fabio. Like right, like giving him advantage was dangerous because he was dealing so much damage,
which they fixed. Kind of. Because remember, when in 5th edition, before this playtest, when you critically hit on an attack, you doubled all your damage, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I rolled, you know, my 1d12 great sword. Let's just take like a dagger. Like I did my D4 dagger or my D6 rapier or whatever. Plus I did 3d6 sneak attack damage. Plus my dexterity is a +4 or whatever. Like I said, dexterity damage, right? So plus a dexterity +4, right? So now I rolled all those numbers, right? All right. Now I got that number. I did 50 points of damage. Well, now it's 100. Everything gets doubled. That's the way it works in 5th edition. Keynote, here's how critical, this is the nice where we roll to critical. And I actually want to touch on the thing about you talking about monsters, because I don't like that either. Yeah. But weapon and unarmed strikes have a special feature for player characters. So this implies that monsters don't do this. That's what Jared was saying before. Critical hits. Where player rolls a 20 on an attack with the weapon or unarmed strike, the attack is also critical hit, which means it deals extra damage to the target. When you roll the damage dice of the weapon or unarmed strike a second time, and then the second roll as extra damage to the target. So if you hit a mace with bludgeoning damage, you do d6 plus your strength. If you crit, you do 2d6 plus your strength. You don't double everything. It only adds an additional dice of whatever weapon you just rolled. So if you had a lot of bonus dice on top of that because you sneak attacked, or you had maybe a spell on you that gave you bonus damage, or your strength went up, or you got big, whatever, all the extra damage does not get doubled anymore. So I think there's a way for them lowering the bar for damage and making it not such a swingy game.
Oh, so it's I see you, Fabio.
So critting more often, that's fine because they lowered the total overall damage of crits.
Got it.
Hey, you get more dice. It's like, okay, cool. You get more dice. Fine, fuck it. Go
Fabio's right then. I agree with Fabio.
Right.
So that's something I was just noticed as we were talking about. But I also don't like the fact that monsters. Here's the thing: monsters critical hitting or not critical hitting, fine. I don't like the fact that either their some abilities recharge. Look, having some abilities of them recharge faster on a D20, I'm kind of okay with that. Having abilities only function when you roll a 20, because you have to remember, monster life spans are measured in rounds of combat. They're not around for all that long. So you have the fact that this guy's not going to be here that long, and maybe I have like 3 of this monster. I have like 2 or 3 trolls, and you're all fighting it. Troll number 2 rolled a 20. Troll number 2 can now do something cool. I have to remember that only troll number 2 can do something cool. It's a little much, it's extra overhead in my head. Just let them do the cool thing. Just balance it to where if they do it all the time, you know, balance it appropriately.
It's Jared said something earlier where it's like where it's gonna be repetitive with certain monsters, you know, like beholders with the eye stalks, mind flayers with their, you know, drain brain, and like dragons with weapons getting the recharge back. There's the idea with the D20 is that like, oh, okay, the recharge up, they don't have to wait 1d6 turns, 1d4 turns, 1d whatever turns. They can now, it's now up because they rolled a d20. I get it, because then it's like the idea is you're now choosing like their big move as opposed to waiting for luck to give you the big move. And that's been their balance for taking that monsters can crit. And like, I know the idea is like, you know, there's like whack monsters. There's also some really cool monsters. Pick cooler monsters. Pick cooler monsters. There's a lot of really cool monsters in all the monster manuals and like Tasha's and everything else. There's some really like weird ass monsters. Pick some things that maybe shouldn't be there and put them there. Why not? It's a fantasy game. You're running around with superheroes, you're gonna get some weird monster that just popped out of nowhere. Guess what? Deal with it, right? Make it make sense though. I don't like it. Like, hey, I'm the DM. I want to roll a nat 20. I want to crit somebody, right? I don't like critting people that are level 1. I feel bad. I'm not gonna lie. If you're a wizard and I crit you, even as a freaking goblin, you're probably dead. You're probably dead. You're probably dead. You know, like, yo, day 1. Hey, it's my first wizarding day out of college. Take an arrow to the face. He's dead. We roll a new character. I feel bad. I don't want to kill him, but yo, you know, Salazar the Magnificent's gotta go. All right, it is what it is. And I know that's one of the things that a lot of players didn't like. So that's the balance.
Yeah,
I don't know if I don't like it. I'm
not as mad about monsters not critting. I thought about it. I'm like, maybe they're raising the base damage of monsters, so they're doing more. I just don't like having to remember which one. Like I said, the recharge, that's one thing. I think the recharge is okay, right? Because it's good to recharge if left alone, right? If they keep the recharge mechanic as is, each ability is going to have either a die or is a number of rounds every time I can do this, right? So it's a breath weapon. Let's say it's a D4. Okay, I breathe. Fire. D4, and it's I know in 2 rounds I could do this again. It's gonna be really cool if I survive that long, right? okay, and then next turn, maybe it's in 3 rounds, I could do this again. And then next turn I go, okay, whap, I hit someone with my wing. Boom, I rolled a natural 20. Now I can breathe again next turn. So they're not expecting it. That I'm okay with, because left alone, I'm going to get that in 3 turns. Right? Okay, fine. So that's a little thing where it's making things come back a little faster, and it makes combat a little more unorthodox. Great, fine. I'm just not cool with having to remember I can only do this when I roll a 20.
Yeah, it's
that should be ingrained into the
it's,
monster and making the monster cooler. That's the only thing I'm saying.
It's I get what you're saying, but it's like it doesn't really work that way. Normally it's like, all right, if it's like, yo, we roll it back on a 6, that means you roll 5 or 6, it recharges the weapon, right? That's usually the way it rolls. So it's like, all right, let me reroll, let me see if I can do it again. Cool, I rolled a 4, can't do it again. Roll the 3, can't
forever?
do it again. Roll the 5, no, I can't do it again until I roll 5 or a 6. That's usually
Every
the
turn
way
you
that,
roll. Oh.
Yeah. That's how it
So
used to work.
I'm old school, sorry.
No worries. But that's like the trade-off is like, oh, I rolled a nat 20 on a head. Guess what? I'm gonna hit you with the bullshit again.
Yeah, that's
and it's
fine.
Cool. And that's the way they're running it. And I'm like, I get it. I like critting. And like I don't like critting at level 1, and I know that's the trade-off, or level 2 because you're still brand new. But like, listen, like you're gonna learn one way or another that there's going to be big damage that hits you, right? Just try not to get hit. Like, I know that's a bad way to put it, and it's like you as a DM, you're gonna end up putting more monsters than there are players more often than not, or you're putting stronger monsters than like the players are individually, or sometimes it is equal for equal, and like things get lucky. There's something about the no crits on it, like it rubs me the wrong way initially. I can math it out and make it make sense, and I can try not to cry in a corner, but I'm not gonna front and not say that it rubs me the wrong way off the bat, right? And that's just me being honest.
The other thing that I noticed, Jared, you have anything to add? You jump in?
I need to see the monsters before I make a solid decision.
Yeah.
I know that's like a silly thing to say. Everyone's like, also I want to see the classes. Because I still feel 5 was 100. I think Warlock's going to be attached to Eldritch Blast. I think certain classes are going to get inherent things, and it's going to look very similar to 4th edition, where certain classes were getting inherent things. I'm not opposed to that. I think that's an interesting concept. Like, oh, you're a Warlock, you naturally have the evocation of Eldritch Blast, which is your bread and butter. Understand, you're going to be doing this 5 ever. If you choose, and then maybe they could bounce into something else. Like, oh, if you're Hexblade, you actually your blade is the Eldritch Blast. You turn it into the actual blade. It's like a psionic thing. That would be pretty dope, right? Like that would be pretty dope. So I want to see classes. I want to see monsters. I feel maybe this is going to be incentive to have more monsters on the field. So instead of having 1d6 goblins, because crits can swing combat, and we know action economy is champs, we're gonna see 1d12 goblins will be the standard, because you're less likely to get those big bell curve swings.
It's possible.
Maybe.
Yeah, but here's the thing that I don't like with the crits: spells can't crit. It's whack.
No.
It's weapons and unarmed strikes.
Yeah, I don't like that.
F the wizards.
I don't like that. Like, yo, if I hit you with like a lightning bolt and it hits you straight in the chest, and I crit roll out 20, you blow up.
Oh, so I'm gonna say this, Fabio.
You blow up.
No disrespect. I 1,000,000% believe they're getting rid of that. Like, they put that in and it was a joke statement, because you know how many. I'm gonna say this right now. When we were doing the Pathfinder playtest, obviously 2 different systems, no shit, no hate. But when people found out how magic worked in Pathfinder 2nd edition, there was almost a riot on the action economy on spells. People online were mad. People were like fuming. They were like, we're gonna come down to Seattle and just burn Paizo to the ground because I need my spells. I'm gonna say this, I haven't seen it online yet, but probably people are waiting to see what wizards look like and stuff like that. Yeah. And to say like, all right, let's see how it works, because I'm gonna say this, casters, there's something wrong with casters here, and then the moment they see you fucking with their magic, they're like, I'm gonna burn everything.
Now here's the thing, from a math perspective. Now, if they keep the math the same, meaning that spells do what they've always done, and they're not changing the amount of dice and the amount of damage that spells do, the higher the magic goes, you're gonna get more dice, right? So stuff standard fireball does. I know they changed the dice. It used to be d6s. It's still d6. Okay, so it's like what, 46, 66, something like that. It starts off, and it just gets bigger every level, right? My critical on my if they made spells crit and they kept the crit system the way it is now, there's no reason to play a martial character, because all I'm getting as a crit on a martial character is I'm getting 1 extra dice, right? If I'm saying that, unless they make spells get 1 extra dice, and yet again, I'm still throwing 66 at you, and it's hitting a whole room of people, or I'm hitting a lightning bolt and it's doing all the damage to all that line, and you know, yet again, you're not rolling to attack; they're rolling to save.
Yeah,
I like 86 for a 5e. I was thinking Pathfinder or something else.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
But still, like, yo, I get you a 16d6.
Yeah, I mean, but that's
mind
the
you,
thing.
Understand something. It's a save. Like, most of those are saves. Like, the ones that are gonna hit you are like the lightning bolt, where it's like it's usually reduced down and it's single target, right? Or it's like the firebolt, or the ray of enfeeblement, or one of those type of things where it's like I just hit you and some weird shit's gonna happen.
Produce flame.
Like,
what kind of damage does produce flame do?
Produce flame does a D8.
D8.
Just forever does a D8, then never gets bigger?
No,
D8,
it does.
level 5, it's 2d8.
D8.
Or something like that. Like, I forget exactly, but
But
it's
just,
like
it grows over time. But that's the difference of weapons. The weapons don't grow over time, so they need the crit to kind of keep meta.
The difference is, even though the weapons don't go over time, if you go martial, the amount of times you can swing per action goes up every time.
True.
So the amount of, like, when you're getting an extra damage die on your spells, you should be getting an extra swing on your like weapon for your attack. So it's just like, all right, cool, I swung 2 times, I can, for an action I can swing twice. For Scorching Ray, I think you get like an extra beam or some shit, right? It's at a higher levels. Like when you cast using a 3rd level slot, you create 1 additional ray for each slot above the 2nd. So it's like you get extra beams. So it's just like, okay, cool, bam, that's the trade-off. It's like level 3, I'm swinging twice. Level 5, 3 or whatever. I think it maxes out at 4. It's been a minute since I've had somebody get that high. Right? So, but like, it's usually on par to a point.
Yeah, with the reduction of crit, the instead of doubling everything, it just adds a die. I think. But
the thing is, like, if I'm using a higher spell slot, as the thing is, I don't like it because it made the way that they balance it out, because magic always outclassed martial damage for the most part, right? Just because it's like, yo, if I'm hitting you with 8d6, it doesn't freaking matter how many like dagger swings you got or short sword swings you got. You can have, if all 4 of them hit, right, and you got a crit, that's 6. I'm hitting you with 8 of them on one spell. Dodge that shit, right? And if you roll trash on a save, you're still taking half, right? So that was a trade-off. Instead of making martial better, they just made casters worse. And this is somebody who doesn't like magic, right? That's just me. I don't pay magic classes for the most part outside of like healers, so it's like I never cared that much. But like knowing other people that play sorcerers, that play warlocks heavy, that that are into like wizards, that want to have impact spells that hit and have the potential to crit, and I feel like that's taking a little bit of wind out of their sails. And I know people are not going to like that because I'm not a particular fan.
They knew what they did.
Yeah. We'll have to see in the system how it functions.
We already know they're not changing classes that much. I think Fabio's 100% right. I think we're going to see Eldritch Blast be attached. I think casters are going to be fine. And they're probably stuff that's linked to them. So like evocate, like if you're a wizard and you focus evocation, you're probably going to be able to make your evocation spells crit.
That makes sense.
And if you're a diviner and you cast divine magic, you're going to be able to make it do more divine-y stuff.
Maybe.
If you're a cleric and you go to heal, you're going to have a number of times equal to your proficiency, because that's what we're seeing per day, to boost your holy magic depending on your god. So if you're a fire, like remember there was like a domain of fire, right? There was like the light cleric, and it's going to say, oh, if you cast a spell with the fire, like with that is evocation and is light based, right? You can crit on it. And I think that's what it's going to say. I think it's going to be slight tweaks that are going to let casters crit, and it's going to be wild when the caster crits, because it's going to be cool, because the evocation wizard should feel like they're better at casting fireball than the summoner wizard. You know what I mean? Like this, like
I can see that,
because the conjurer wizard who casts fireball still can crit on a 20, and then it still does the same amount of damage as the evocation wizard on a 20. So I would like to see personally the evocation wizard to be epic, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna cast fucking fireball and I'm gonna make it burn, and then and then I'm gonna, and instead of it like critting, it's just gonna be like I get a number of evocation points per day. I can add my level plus my proficiency bonus to the damage of that spell, and I'm like, oh, I'm a fucking god of fire, and that's what I want to feel. I want a scorching ray. I'm a
laser beams through people.
Yeah, I'm gonna melt faces.
I guess the final, unless we're done talking about potential spell crit based on classes, the one final thing related to magic is there's a third type of magic now. We kind of made passing reference to it before. So there's arcane spells, which they specifically list as bards, sorcerers, warlocks, and wizards and artificers use. So we had a question before of how they're going to treat bards. At least in the playtest, bards are still arcane, and that hasn't changed. Then you go to divine, and divine is clerics and paladins. It's divine magic. It comes from a god. So arcane is like, I learn how to do magic and I shoot magic. If I draw this symbol, shit happens. Divine goes, hey, can I have this spell? Sure. Blam, and shit happens. So the third type is primal. Primal spells draw on the forces of nature. Druids and rangers harness this magic. Then there's a partial spell list. There's a partial spell list in the playtest of like what spells are going to be moved to primal. Now, I don't know if they're going to have certain spells be in multiple types. Like this is an arcane, primal, and divine spell. I don't know if they're going to do that. That's a Pathfinder 2nd edition thing. I don't know. I mean, obviously, there are some crossover right now. There are some spells that are in divine that are also in arcane, and there is some cutoff. Like, no, this is only divine. This is only arcane. So they are coming up with a third tier of magic, which kind of makes sense. The kind of that the problem is that the in all other editions of D&D, the druids and rangers who can cast magic always felt in this weird spot where they were both and neither at the same time. So it's nice that they have their own thing. I think it's way late for them to ever add this.
Yeah, like there's been too much crossover where you're like, okay, I guess we'll see what happens. I don't know. Like I literally have that on my list as question mark.
Right, like better late than never.
Yeah, I guess it's okay. Like I want to see what they're gonna do. I'm confused only because it's like if you have certain classes, just like Steve said, that like go the line on both, and like bards is like, okay, what happens now? Are they gonna add kind of some spells that kind of do the same thing or others? I hope there's no like crazy overlap, but having a bard that had access to heal, to heal in a pinch, that
was always useful.
You know what I mean? So
do they not have access to that?
If there are
heal is divine.
Okay, and I just wasn't sure because I know in I want to say 3rd edition that I think they 3.5 they changed it to where bards got access to heal spells.
Yeah,
they did
temporarily. I wasn't sure if that carried over to later editions because I didn't play too many bards.
And this they're kind of taking it out, so it's just like, all right, so what happens now? You know what I mean?
There's ways to get it right. Like you could take the magical invocation, magic initiate. And you could gain 2 cantrips and a spell from the divine school. So there's a way to do it. I'm glad they created the primal school. It was kind of there already. I think what you're going to see is a lot of overlap, right? Like my argument is you're going to see a lot of bards being able to grab things from divine. You're going to see, because we are forgetting the schools, right? Like the as your character grows, right? So at 3rd level you choose a school. So I'm 100% sure they're going to have like the Valor school can choose divine spells or gain access to these spells, and the ranger can now use arcane spells because they're the Horizon Hunter, and that deals with weird shit from the abyssal planes. I agree with that face, Fabio, that like iffy, like that's super weird.
Yeah, but it's possible, and the thing is, you're not wrong, and it's like because these things exist, but it's like, all right, we'll see what they do.
I'm glad they created the 3rd option. Better late than never, right? Welcome to the party. We've all been here, right? Like I never understood why like Goodberry was divine or like arcane, and I was like, none of this makes sense. It was obviously easy to just be like, as a writer, it was just easier to just have only 2 things, right? Like, okay, Fog Cloud is both a divine and a arcane spell.
I think this is going to be rough in the beginning, but given more time, they're able to like clearly define the 3 schools of magic. Now let's assume that they're only stopping at 3. Who knows? There might be more, but at the moment, let's assume that is just the 3, and they're not going any further than that. In the beginning, it's gonna be rough because all the spells now you have to relearn who can cast what. Right, so there's going to be tons of crossover and the stuff out of the core rulebook. Right, I think that's going to be a gimme at the beginning. It's going to be rough. As things get more developed, then they're able to more strictly define. Arcane really focuses on this. Divine is this. Primal is this. And I think Jared is right that certain classes are going to get access to dip into other schools as like a minor thing. We're like maybe there's a class feature. Yet again, we haven't seen classes, so we haven't seen how this is going to pan out. But there are maybe specializations, like you said, the Horizon Hunter or the Arcane Archer. Way back in the day, for me, like the old Prestige class, where it was arcane-based rangers. But you had like bards who were able to pull healing magic. So yes, they've listed them as arcane, but I still think that there's room for them to be able to have class features that let them dip.
Yeah, I definitely see. We shall see. I'm intrigued and hyped to see what they're gonna do. I just find it like, okay, I guess we're gonna have to see.
I like that. Okay, it's such a shady.
It's really, I don't know, but I'm with it. I'm down for the ride.
I know. That kind of gets us to the end. I'm sad. Maybe it will be in classes. My biggest concern is this. I'm sad. Weapons. We haven't seen any knowledge on weapons, and people have clamored. That was like one of the biggest thing was armor and weapons, changing that to make it a little bit more intuitive or to feel special, right? Like hide armor, like a lot of armor was the exact same thing. And then why give you options when you should just say I'm wearing medium armor. Medium armor gives me dex plus, it's 12 plus dex, and heavy armor is 16 plus 1 plus 2 dex or whatever, right? Like, and that's all it should say. It shouldn't say scaled mail or hide. It should just be like
that's an old timey thing. You know what? Screw it. I want armor. I want Thacko.
Bring back Thacko.
Bring back Thacko. I want my armor to be -10, and it's the best armor in the game.
Yeah.
Don't understand what he said. I know what you said. I don't understand those. I don't speak that language.
We don't talk.
Don't curse at me like that. Use profanity.
But with all that being said, we are Nothing Venture, Nothing Game. We love rolling dice, giving advice, and itching bug bites. Have a good night, everyone.
Deuces, everybody.
Later.